She asked the question, a very common one again, what would you say is your biggest weakness? And his answer was legitimately, my biggest weakness is Taco Bell. Hey everyone, I'm back. I'm so sorry I've been missing again. I'm just really bad at this, but the season is upon us that dental school applications will be opening up soon, I believe June 1st, and it was maybe 6 years ago now that I first started applying for dental school, and I know some of you had left me questions, comments, concerns about applying for dental school on my older videos about my overall dental school experience, and I'm actually surprised by the number of people who are interested in applying. Let me know in the comments if you are an applicant this cycle, and let me know what your questions are. Maybe I'll make a Q&A about common questions you have either about applying or about my dental school experience in particular. I will be sharing with you today my top 7 tips of applying or getting into dental school, and I'm gonna keep it real and steer clear of cookie cutter, common sense, you know, the things you always hear all over the internet about how to get into dental school. Let's start off with what dental schools you can or should apply to. And it's going to be different for everyone, but in my case, being Canadian, I was considered an international applicant. Thus, I kept my list low to only 10 schools that I applied to, almost all of them being private schools, and that's because public or in-state schools aren't really going to be keen on letting you in since they are government subsidized to allowing a low tuition cost to residents of their own state. So if you live in Canada and you're applying to the United States or to, you know, out of province Alberta if you're from Ontario, your chances are going to be slimmer, not impossible, but just slimmer than if you were to apply to your own province or your own in-state school. That being said, I was rejected from all schools that were public, and the 3 schools that I did interview at were Boston University, University of Southern California, and Detroit Mercy, where I went to and graduated last year. Those are all expensive and privatized institutions which can allow in-state and out-of-state students to matriculate with the same tuition costs. This brings me to my next point, that if you have unbelievable statistics, 4.0 GPA, class president, you name it, you are probably going to be more willing to apply to an out-of-state or international school and might be considered much more easily than everyone else. But why would you want to? You would probably want to stay local and go somewhere less expensive or with a big name. I don't blame you. But if you're just an average applicant like I was, I believe my stats were 3.4 overall, 3.3 science, and my DAT scores were, I believe, 21 all across. I did fail carving, which was a stupid part of the Canadian DAT. It's probably getting phased out now. But 21 at the time, I believe, was a pretty good score. I believe now they're getting more and more, it is getting a little bit more difficult to score better, and even a 21 now, it's not really considered to be decent. So if you are someone who is pretty average, you want to apply early. You want to get your application in the moment the AADSAS cycle opens online, because admissions are rolling admissions. Rolling meaning if the schools are looking at applications now, they are trying to get matriculants at this moment, and if your application isn't in there, obviously you're not going to be considered. So the sooner you can get it in, the faster people can look at your application and get you in as soon as they can. I hate to say it, but sometimes it's just a money game. Like, they want to fill their spots quickly, that way they don't have to worry about, you know, how am I going to get these last spots filled in and get the most money they can out of tuition paying students. So once you've prepared your application, do consider two things of importance, both your personal statement and your letter of references. If you guys want to, I can share the details and maybe even read out my personal statement. I mean, it's been so long, I don't even know if it's that good anymore, but if you guys are interested, let me know. I can give some insight about that. But more importantly, I'd say you want good people, good quality people to be referring you for your application. So unless you're getting a letter from the President of the United States or even the Dean of your school, chances are it's going to be better that you get someone who knows you on a personal level. That way they can give you true qualities of you as a human being and comment on things that you've done and what they've seen, rather than just generic, you know, it's not going to help you if you have a letter just like everybody else's. And I know there are some really nice professors I remember back in my undergrad who would give out letters to anyone who asked, but they're so busy already, they're just going to be filling in that name blank and then the rest of the letter is going to be identical. So don't let yourself be generic. Get someone who knows you, and if you can, or you definitely should actually, shadow a dentist for long term. I made the mistake that I was unfortunately really busy with my master's project. I wasn't able to shadow a dentist or even my own dentist for long term. I was only able to get a week. If you're able to spend more time assisting or even helping out with another dental office, that dentist is going to know you more and more, literally see your passion in person and be able to comment on that, and that's going to be really important for someone who's reading your professional letters. Having someone who speaks highly of you is probably more important, I would say, than even your own personal letter. Once you have your application accepted for an interview, now's the time to be honest. Now, it's going to be more important that you're honest rather than say what you think they want you to say. I will repeat that again. It's more important that you say what you mean rather than say what you think they want you to say. There we go. So for instance, when I was interviewing at Detroit Mercy, where I went to school, the question came up with, why do you want to go to our school compared to, you know, all the other ones that you applied to? Chances are it's a very common question. They are probably definitely going to ask you that. And you know, I could have commented on things like great clinical experience, you know, wonderful faculty, things that are pretty well known about the school. But what I actually said was, well, I'm Canadian, and in my honest opinion, I just wanted to go to a school in Detroit where I was close to Canada and I could go home and visit my family on the weekend. And actually my interviewer commented later on saying that, you know, she appreciated the honesty and thought it was a good answer. I will tell another funny story. One of my friends in dental school, he was interviewed by another faculty member who was known to be pretty traditional, kind of strict, and she asked the question, a very common one again, what would you say is your biggest weakness? And his answer was legitimately, my biggest weakness is Taco Bell. I could not believe that he would say that to her, but in the end, he even got accepted himself. So I'm just saying, maybe it helps to be honest. That being said, don't try too hard to impress your interviewer, because what I've seen is, as I was getting acquainted with a lot of my staff and faculty members in clinic, you're most likely going to be interviewed by either someone in admissions, like a doctor in admissions, and or more likely someone who is full-time clinical staff who is so busy and is probably running in between clinic sessions and has, you know, 50 papers or whatever still left to grade. And I've already seen hundreds of you that week who are just like you. So don't give your typical expected answers like, I'm too much of a perfectionist and I wanted to be a dentist my whole life and I always knew I wanted to be an orthodontist since I had braces. You know, chances are they've already heard it. You want to be different, even if you sound like a bit of a weirdo. You probably want to make someone go, well, that was weird, but he was kind of interesting. Make sense? I think so. I think if I were an interviewer, I'd be more impressed by someone who was brutally honest. My last and 7th tip is a little bit controversial, but I would say that having a connection to the school definitely boosts your application. I know if you say had a friend who was already in the school, that friend has likely already gotten to know a lot of the faculty there, even someone in admissions, and they could give your name a boost. Now if you're someone applying from out of state, pretty far away, I would recommend maybe you can show your passion through social media. Start an Instagram, like a Facebook page demonstrating things that you're interested in, like volunteering, going overseas to help with dental missionary, and follow a lot of the student networks. I know every school has their own student network, social media, clubs have their social media, even the school itself has an Instagram, so follow them, be active, like show that you're definitely interested, not too eager, you know, you don't want to be one of those weirdos, but try to, you know, get your name in there and they'll recognize your name and see, oh, he was applying to our school, we already kind of know what he's all about, so there you go. So that's it. Those were my personal top tips for getting into dental school. Let me know if that was helpful in any way. I know there's a lot more to it, definitely. If you have specific questions, again, leave me a comment. I will try to either reply as soon as I can or make another video about common questions. Bear in mind, if you're going to be asking me, these are my stats, this is my DAT score, what are my chances, it's really hard to say based on that, you know? So if you are a low GPA, pretty average like I was, then try to boost yourself up in other ways. You know, get an incredible story going and share that with the world. And I will tell you that you can do it. I got in the first cycle of application and I didn't even know I wanted to be a dentist. So, well, thank you guys. It was wonderful talking to you again, and I will see you pretty shortly, I hope. Bye.